record so that we can definitely share it on YouTube. So in that case, we'll start again so that it's fresh for YouTube. My name's Kate Valentine. I'm founder of Senior Mamas Choir, and I am today meeting Susie Ro Prater. Hello,
hey, lovely people.
So this is a series of interviews with choir composers, and I'm personally delighted to be interviewing Susie. When this idea came about, Susie was definitely one of the top of the list, because Susie and I do know each other. We go back a little way.
We go back, yeah.
And I've just had such a pleasure watching Susie blossom into her work. So are we okay to just dive in, Susie?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm all yours.
Susie doesn't really know what I'm going to be asking her. She's got a bit of an idea, but we're going for the unprepared approach.
Yes, it's always the way that I work best.
So, Susie, you've just shared Flame on Songline.
Yeah.
A beautiful, beautiful song. Just as a starting point, when did you write that song?
So I wrote Flame really shortly after my dad died, actually, which must be about 6 years ago. So it was like a really tender time for me, and there was a lot of, it was just so much depth moving, and it was like, okay, I'm sort of gonna harness this and like, you know, turn that grief into creativity and into beauty.
Well, I do recall, I think probably not long after you wrote that song, I had the pleasure of hearing it from you. You taught it at a session in Hollycombe.
Oh, yeah.
And I recall you talking about the process of having written that, and you mentioned a little book. Am I right in remembering that? You'd written down some notes and some words of inspiration.
That's right. Good memory. I don't remember that, but now you say it. Yeah, so there's so many different ways in which I sort of, sometimes I'm like receiving a song where I just like pick up the guitar and something flows through. But I remember with this one, I was feeling so inspired by my dad's work, you know. I felt like it was kind of, in some ways, like honoring his legacy of like being a pioneer for the natural voice movement, and, you know, founding, you know, being a really big part of the Unicorn Natural Voice camps and all of that stuff, and all of the harmony singing and all the getting people to sing together. And I was like, this feels so, it was after he died, it was like, it just exploded in me how much, I mean, now I have a bit more of a balance between, I love performing with the guitar and recording my songs like that, and doing the also like vocal technique kind of living instrument coaching work. But it was like I had these couple of years where it was almost, I almost felt like I was sort of like teaching with the force of two spirits. It was like he was there just being like, yes, let's go. And so I kind of had this, I want to compose in harmony. That's kind of all I want to do. I want to just share this work. I want to feel the amazing sort of, I guess, like the apprenticeship I've been on since I was 1 year old, basically, in some sense. And I remember with this song, it was really a considered like, right, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to create a song with all these feelings that are going on in me. So I think I did do that. I got out a notebook, I got a pen, and I just wrote like imagery, poetry, and what came out with Flame was this kind of deep inner feeling. Yeah, it would be nice actually if there is now a video up of this song Flame. So if you don't know what we're talking about, it would be nice for you to hear it, to know what I'm talking about. So you can just like pause this and go and look at that for a moment.
Well, let's pause in that moment, because you've already touched on quite a few questions that I really wanted to ask you. Yeah. Let's come back to you mentioned 1 year old little Susie. So yeah. Try and think of the earliest memory of writing a song.
Of writing a song.
Or creating, imagining and singing out.
I mean, I can't, it just kind of drifts right back into like the dream of being so young. I mean, I think what was cultivated in my family was really, we just sung all the time. I had music around me. We were always, you know, whether it was food blessings or Christmas carols or all of that stuff. So I was just making up music all the time, and it was just kind of like singing what the trees are doing and all of that kind of thing.
So paint us a picture of that time. So who's in your family? You've already mentioned your dad, but obviously Nick Prater is quite important in this work. So paint us a picture of your life.
Yeah, so my life, my parents were both Steiner school teachers, so mum was kindergarten teacher, and that is a lot of singing as well, using so she wasn't like a professional musician singer, but was using song a lot with the children. And then my dad, it was just like mandolin, guitar, violin, flute, sitar. I would be basically sung to sleep or played to sleep. And then food blessing songs, right? Every meal, sing a song for food blessing. And he wrote quite a few really sweet little food blessing songs as well. And then my brother and sister, so there's 5 of us. And I mean, Christmases were real candles on the trees, and not a huge amount of presents, but loads of singing. Like it was like that, no, like a real celebrating the festivals, the solstices, the equinoxes, the Whitsun and all of that stuff. So it was a lot of singing and a lot of encouragement just to be ourselves and be creative. And
wow, from day one.
I was actually singing before I could talk.
Yeah,
pretty much. I think that's what I've been told anyway.
I'm sure, I can believe it. And can you remember an earliest memory of maybe creating a song that you performed, or was it just such a regular experience for you?
Yeah, like I think because of also the sort of the Waldorf Steiner school system, it's not about competition and sort of like performing and things in that sense. I mean, we did lots of plays and cute like things like that. So in that sense, I was a very dreamy child. So I was like singing a lot, but none of it was about how I was perceived by other people. But when I was 13 or 12, maybe, my dad taught me 2 chords on the guitar, A minor and E minor. And with those 2 chords, as soon as I could switch between them, I wrote like 3 songs on those 2 chords, because it was just like, so it was those first songs when I was a teenager that I kind of got up in the school assembly.
What did you write about with those 2 chords?
There was all sorts. There was like, a lot of it was kind of just random, like quite random. There wasn't a kind of like, right, I wasn't in that. It was sort of whatever sounded good together as kind of like teenage poetry or younger teenage poetry. And then it was like, there was this one that I wrote when I was 16 that was like, hey you, yeah you, it's a rush from your kiss and a touch that I miss. And it was about this guy that was like 2 years older than me. And
this is what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear what Susie was doing early teens. Like, was there a rebellion? Was there, because this sounds so pure and beautiful, this picture you describe of meal I know teenagers, I have some. What happened?
Actually, I was really sweet. I was actually a really nice teenager. I would do things like write my parents cards and leave it on the table that was like, thank you so much for my upbringing. I know, it was ridiculous. But the rebellion came later. I mean, of course, I started like smoking and drinking and coming to bed late and all of that stuff. But I was so into the music, and I had so much, I was like into how my parents had kind of like brought me up.
So not to assume that people watching this know, but you were kind of brought up in the natural voice choir way. Your dad teaching natural voice choirs for as long as you can remember, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, as long as I can remember. I remember I've got an early memory of singing a soprano part to an African song. And Dad singing the bass part, and I would be holding one. And I remember that I'm holding a part and someone else, and being really,
what age?
I don't know,
Yes.
6 or something. I don't know, like, or 8. I don't know, something young.
And you're in the
being like the parts, that was really exciting for me.
And so you were drinking in all of that harmony and people's voices in that sort of circle form of singing.
Yeah. And going to sleep in the middle of like Dances of Universal Peace or people Teze singing or something on my little sheepskin, that kind of thing. Proper 2nd generation hippie stuff.
Yeah. Well, great cradle natural voice singing. child, you know.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
okay, so
amazing.
we'll get to kind of we'll fill in the gaps from that kind of childhood piece, because I think that's really important to know about you. And at what point do you start teaching choirs?
So I think 17, I was, my dad was teaching a choir in Forest Row where I was going to school, and he got pleurisy actually. He got really sick and just basically couldn't get out of bed. And he said, look, we're almost at the end of the term. Susie, instead of me cancelling the choir, will you lead it? And I was like, are you joking? Lead a choir? Like, I hadn't even thought about it. And he was like, you know the songs, you know what to do. And I was like, look, I'll give it a go. And I stepped into that little village hall and I was like, oh my God, what the hell? Like, everyone is about 5 times my age, basically, you know. And I basically found out that I had, by osmosis, learned the skills that I needed, and the tuning. And I mean, you know, there are memories of making all the mistakes, the scary, horrible mistakes, for those of you who, you know, want to kind of come into this work and you go, oh my God, I totally messed up. Like, had my head in like a major key and it's in a minor thing, and you just can't get out from one to the other, or you start it in the wrong thing and you lose the other parts, and all the kind of panic that happens.
Well, that's good to hear that you've actually been through that, because that,
Yeah, of course.
yeah, no, even to me, that I might have made the assumption that you didn't, having grown up in the unique way that you grew up, into natural voice and into four parts. And
I threw myself into big, you know, like by the age of 18 I was leading, or 19 I think, I first led an adult workshop at Unicorn Natural Voice Camp, where I had started when I was 10.
Yeah.
I was a teen, and then I was a really naughty, horrible teenager keeping everyone awake, and then I suddenly, you know, one day to the next, suddenly then became a teacher in that.
How was
and
this?
Loads of people turned up to my workshop. I guess they were like, oh, Nick Prater's daughter, what's she going to do? And I just had no experience, and I was just tripping over my like trailing hippie skirts, and my dreadlocks were getting in my face, and I was like lost the key and I couldn't remember what I was doing. There was Nakomo was there.
Well, who's Nakomo? Just let's say who Nakomo is for people that don't know.
Nakomo is like the godfather of the singing world, and for me.
Yeah.
So he's basically founded the Natural Voice Camp and Unicorn Camp, that is, and he writes and composes so many of my favorite songs. Really, like he's awesome. And yeah, and he's kind of like the guy that I don't know, I would always feel nervous, you know, around him, and he doesn't give compliments easily, that sort of thing, you know.
But when you get them, they're good.
They're great.
So tell us, Nakomo was there, that workshop, yeah.
And I think I lost the key. I lost the key. I was tripping over. I was sweating. I had chosen the wrong thing, you know, a long sleeve top, all the things you learn not to do. I started with a composition, something like a couple of days before. I was like, I want to do my own thing. So I like made up this kind of random 6-part harmony chaos thing. And I was like, okay, remember to like test these things out before. But I still haven't really learnt. I mean, I remember last time I was at Voice Camp a couple of years ago, I did an arrangement of Grandmother, I Honour You, which is now in one of the books, the Unicorn books. It went down really well, but I arranged it on camp. Like I got like, yeah, you were there, you were helping me. And it was really like, why am I doing this? I just wanted something really fresh. It'd been on my list to arrange it for ages. It's a gorgeous song. And yeah, I just was like, I want to do this one. And I just have that like kind of, I just jump in the deep end, and sometimes it causes a lot of stress, actually. I don't often play it safe in that way, but it also means I grow really fast in that learning.
Right, that's interesting. Okay, so let's come back to, so you've just described just about to take on what I know to be a considerably large workshop. We're talking upward of 100, a couple of hundred, is it, people?
I can't remember how many, yeah, something like that.
And so you're writing the song just before. So that's one way that.
And I'm roping people in, like in the circle. I'm going, look, you do good bass parts. What do you reckon about this? And Barbershop John's like, oh, I would kind of go here. And I'm like, oh, how can I? And also, I don't. An important thing to say is I don't actually read or write music. I was too impatient to learn. I tried to do theory and stuff, and I was just like, I can't be bothered with it. I just want to sing. I just want to write. So how I compose is all by ear. I don't write anything down. And how I teach is all by memory. Or like little, or if I've got little, sometimes audio kind of. So I was like going into this, you know, high pressure situation with very fresh parts and having to remember them all as well, not having been able to write them down. So it's like it's all learning moments.
So that's one way that you write songs, and I do, you know, I'll come on to talking about your particular magic of how you craft in the moment, because I've seen you do that. I've seen you craft songs in the moment, whether they're freshly created or whether they're an older song that you've carried with you. I've seen that you carry some real magic about how you bring people into singing. So we'll come on to that. But let's go back to the composing. What's it like to bring a song of your own? Like, what happens for you?
Do you mean bring a song to a group to teach my own? No. To kind of receive a song, bring it through.
Describe it as receive a song. Yeah, what's that like?
It's like I don't exist anymore. I think that's like, I wrote a song recently on the guitar, and it's like time. I kind of reflected on it afterwards. I was like, wow, I was just doing that for 2 hours. Time stood still. I had no kind of, I guess, egoic consciousness going, oh, that's Susie doing that. Like I was just so, it's almost like I don't exist anymore. It's like I disappear. And I feel like then this song, it's not mine. It's kind of, it's got its own sort of spirit. And of course I'm crafting it as well. And I think with the composition, you've got to have some tools and some skills to kind of go, right, is this in the right key for the basses? How's it going with the soprano? So you obviously need that crafting thing, but in essence, a song, it's like a little spirit. So it's like, oh, I want to come through. Okay, great. Yeah.
Wow. And when they do come through like that, do you ever kind of find yourself saying, thank you, song, but I'm not going to use you, or are they cool?
No, I mean, it's like, well, my dad would talk about this infinite river of song that runs underneath everyone at all times, and you just dip your hand in, you pull it up, like for example right now, hey my beautiful sister, there you are in a square, and all you are, I don't know who you are listening right now, but you're there. And then I drop it back down into the river of song, and it's gone, right? I'm not going to be like, oh, that was brilliant about Kate and the Facebook Live. So it depends on how much I'm singing. So if I'm like out in the woods and I'm singing something, I'm not like harnessing it, I'm not holding it, I'm just coming and it's going. So there's lots of coming and going. I guess you'd call it improvisation.
And then one comes and you know it's,
and it's, yeah, there's a different headspace where it's like there is more of a kind of crafting, and I would like grab the guitar and I'd be like, oh yeah, this. Often I'd start with the guitar, I'd start with chords maybe, and then I would just get this feeling of like, oh, this feels, especially what kind of headspace I'm in. If I'm like going, oh, I want to create something really good, and I'm already thinking about what the audience will think about it and stuff, it kind of already is sort of tainted, and it's not coming from that very, but I can feel when I'm in the space, when I'm having like a kind of quite a deep revelation about life, or something's just clicked in my awareness. It's like, it kind of comes out from that place.
And have you got a favourite song of your own, or a couple of favourites?
No.
Not.
Which one of your children are your favourites?
Oh.
I mean, yeah, there's like, out of my songs on the guitar, for me, Creatures of the Deep was a really, it was such a magical song that it was just like ecstatic.
Tell us about that.
Oh, being in Hawaii.
Well, tell us what you want to tell us about that song and why.
About that song and why. So I think it was the feeling that I was in my life. I and it's like, as we speak about this, I realized that my duty to cultivate a life that really feels good for me and feels like, because sometimes I'm like, oh, I should be working more, and it means I'm being on the computer more, doing more this and that. But actually, the more I do that kind of stuff, the less I feel necessarily nourished in my own being to then be able to bring the song through. So I had the most incredible time in Hawaii. Like, it was so transformative for me. And it was at the end of the trip when I was basically like in this kind of like bubble of ecstatic like happiness, and I was out on the boat, and we were looking for whales, and the whales didn't come. And then I got out my medicine drum that I had made, and I started singing, and then this big mama whale with her baby came right next to the boat, and everyone else jumped in and swam alongside, and I was just there singing. And afterwards, the woman on the boat gave me my money back and said, you called the whales in so we could all swim with them. And then I had my guitar as well, and on the way back, as we were sailing back to the island Maui, I started writing this song. So yeah, so like that's, so it was from such a deep place. So then the feeling of the song for me, it comes from that place. So then it feels like it reminds me of that energy, and kind of quite a true place. Feels like, oh, that comes from a true place.
Wow, and I'm having goosebumps just thinking about that song. And I know that it's traveled. Do you have a sense for how far that song and all of your songs have traveled?
No, I don't have a sense of it, but it just gives me so much joy when I see someone do a cover, or a choir singing Flame, or Until the World Is Singing, or like Sophia, amazing choir leader Sophia over your way, when she led No More Holding On with a huge group at Into the Wild Festival, and just gives me like, woo, I only get joy. Yeah, like basically with me, I know it's different with all composers, and I can't say across the board, but just from my own place, I don't feel like of course I put the work into to make this happen, but I don't feel like I own any of it. And for me, it's all about sharing. And if you shared something with your choir without asking me, great, like I love it. I want to hear about it, because I love hearing that you've enjoyed the song. And
well, it's incredibly generous of you, and your songs are definitely traveling and are really well known, and they touch people. And I think the way you describe Creatures of the Deep, that I always try and find out what the story is, or what the situation was for you or for the other composers when the song comes, and to share that too, and that just amplifies the experience more. But of course, we all need to make a living, and so I'm really interested to know how you get paid for your work.
It really varies, actually. I mean, for me, my mentality, my kind of like motto around it all is like, the more open and generous and free I can be with my music, or with everything, with my love and with my care, that will come back. I really believe it. Like, it's super strong in me. That, I mean, my dad was really similar in that way. He would always give, like, all of his books, they have a sheet saying, I give photocopy permission for you to basically share, photocopy and share, just from buying, a book of 20 songs for $10, and you can photocopy them. Do you know what I mean? It's like that. And he wasn't the greatest businessman. I've kind of like improved on those things a bit. I definitely value my work and charge accordingly. For me, my workshops bring like, pay my rent, basically. Like, gigs are more of a bit dodgy. And music, I mean, people don't really pay for listening to music anymore so much, so it's sometimes tricky. But the workshops, I feel like, giving something really of value, and really caring for people, and really wanting them to liberate their voices and enjoy. It's so amazing. It's just such a joy, and we all have voices. So
well,
that's a good.
It is a really important discussion, I think. Copyright, if you like, we call it. Well, that's the name given to using someone, like if you someone's painting, anyone's work, anyone's writing, their songs. It's really important. And I think one of the reasons for me doing this choir composers interview series is because I'm in a position where we're all sharing each other's, we're all saying, have you heard that song by Susie? Have you heard that one by Nicoma, Sophia? And we have to find out where we can buy them.
Yeah.
and how we can really honor that composer. And it's really hard in the digital age when things are so quick and easy to share, which is wonderful. And at the same time, when you just said musicians don't really get paid for their work by people listening anymore. And I really sincerely hope that can change, because, you've just taken a little sip of your tea there. How often do we go out and buy a cup of coffee for a few quid? I do regularly. And I know that some people that do charge for their songs, for choir leaders to go and share, or for singers if they really like them, they charge a couple of quid, or £10 maybe, for that. And it's not something that's honoured in money exchange, as much as we can love and enjoy the songs and want to share them. So I'm just putting it out there that I hope that can be something that keeps shifting in the right direction for all musicians.
I think I'm in quite a different position in a sense to a lot. So for example, I'm doing like quite a lot of different things, like quite a few strings to my bow, in terms of my work, and all of it is sprung out of absolute like love for this work and joy. And sometimes I'm way too busy and get stressed out and all that stuff, so I'm learning to rein it in. But I can imagine if someone is a choir leader and a composer, and that's that's what they're doing, that selling their songs is it's really like a huge part of the picture. And I guess for me, and it's not undermining the value of it, and of course it's amazing when people do buy the compositions for and like I have basically the kind of decade of composing and arranging, my songbook coming out in a few months. I'm just working on it. 27 songs in there. And I was kind of thinking about price, like how do I put a price on this? 27 songs, like a decade of creativity, and then also paying people to score it and paying for the pressing and all of that stuff. And then we're also recording all the parts and also making a listening CD, which is going to be gorgeous just to listen to as well, with all the songs. It's so much work. And then also, anyway, there's a whole thing in there. And I'd like to charge well for that. That is also affordable for people, but they get a really good resource actually, that there's like so much in there, and I'm just to pour all of the notes and give all of the tips and make it a really gorgeous package for people. But I also feel like there's so much that comes back when it's just like, okay, fly, open. And I guess maybe, for example, someone might take my song Flame, share it with their choir without necessarily asking me or buying it from me, but they learned it from somebody else or something. And then, but the credit, I think that's the important bit. If they could say, this song's by Susie Ro, and just to say that, and just say, I think she might have an album as well, or whatever, then that person may then be able to find my music. And actually, when I say that, it's also doesn't feel like, oh, so then they can find my music. It's more so that I could get paid, or I'm kind of like tying myself in knots here, but it's basically that I would love these songs, the spirits of these songs, to reach who they're going to help, who needs them as well. So like the further they go, the better, I see. So if that means not so many people paying for them, I just feel like
there's a lot of trust. There's a lot of trust in there, isn't there?
It's about trust. Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful. And at the same time, I'm thinking, I'd love to just make sure Susie has lots of time to sit on boats with her drum and see what else she brings, really, because it's such medicine, the songs. So there's a balance in that. And is there anything else that's really an inspiration for you? Obviously, your family and your upbringing has been hugely inspirational on the NVN Natural Voice Network. Is there anything else that you really feel is what is inspiring you?
Good question. I would say my spiritual practice, of which doesn't have a particular form to it. It's not like, oh, I'm this and this is my spiritual practice. It's much more kind of open and free, and I guess that started with my upbringing and that influence from my family. But it's really about presence, about really surrendering into the present moment and remembering the truth of who I am and not just the blah blah blah, to really identify, okay, that's my egoic state of consciousness that's wanting to compartmentalize and judge and do this and do that, which is so useful when I'm doing my emails and all of that stuff. But to really have that practice, and when I come more and more into, like, you know, the kind of dissolving of the illusion of living in one state of consciousness, that really helps the music flow, and that really helps bring a bridge, somehow a bridge from that way to other ways, and then as we sing it we kind of like connect with that place as well.
Well, you make it sound easy to do that, but you know, where does one start with that? If someone's, you know, kind of living their life and is just kind of feeling this call and this desire to express in song and in singing, you know, how do you start that?
It's well, I mean, come to one of my workshops.
I would absolutely recommend.
But for me, it's also about nature. Like, for example, I just started this vocal mentoring group yesterday. There's a morning group and an evening group, and their homework is to carve out 10 to 30 minutes a day to be with their voices, to see what their voices actually want to start with, rather than like, right, you have to do this, la 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 la, and already just putting more and more things over what might be quite a tender or whatever. There might be layers and layers and layers of shame and grief and blah blah blah, everything that is there in the voice, and just to go out into the woods and just to kind of sing the shape of the landscape and to connect with each leaf through the voice, and to just to use it as a tool to basically be alive, to interact with the natural environment, with ourselves. And it can be croaky and it can be breathy and it can be weird and sighy and however it comes out, but just to, for me, it's just like, what does it mean to connect with being alive and letting that life force, and how would that sound in song? You know, just to start there, little step by step.
And these workshops, and we'll put all the links for these workshops, because you've got a lot of great offerings at the moment. So we'll make sure with this
online,
check in the comment in the text box with this video on YouTube when it goes there, of all of Susie's offerings. But what I want to ask you is, like, how accessible is that? Because I know that you've crafted your life very much around your garden and nature, and I know that that's something that you've devoted to, really. But how, if that's not a practice, you know, if people don't have gardens, you know, how you know, who's this accessible for?
The practice of being present with ourselves and with our voices can happen anywhere, in any moment. Like, that is available to everybody. It's our birthright to be present. It's our birthright to be able to listen into ourselves and check in. How are you doing? It's our birthright to make a sound, even in, you know, in a prison cell, or whatever circumstance you can imagine that. And of course, you know, it's a big thing, isn't it? Like the freedom of speech. Like, we are so lucky here in this part of the world that we can open our voices and be free in that way. Like, but it really starts from home, actually. And for me, it's like nature is an inspiration, but it's not where it all comes from. It's like we are nature, actually. So starting from home and just giving yourself a little moment to connect to the voice, even if it's just like, just like, and really starting that step-by-step journey, because it's this moment is all we have, basically. You know, everything else is just a thought.
Gosh, definitely look up Susie's mentoring workshops, because it's pretty life-changing work, really, isn't it? If you're someone listening to this thinking, well, I don't have that in my life, I don't have a free voice, I can't just open and let my voice out, then, you know, it's really a starting place, as well as people that are already musicians that can enhance their voices and be more creative with their voices.
Basically, my website's kept really up to date, so obviously you could be watching this at any point, but all of the offerings will be up to date and will be on there.
Great. So let me come back to the magic that I've definitely experienced. And even on Zoom, when we were doing, Susie's been twice guesting on the Songline, the quarantine choir during that pandemic all those years ago, if you're watching this in the future. The magic that you create when you bring people together in singing, it's quite extraordinary what you can do. I mean, I don't quite know what it is. I don't know if I could describe what you do, but I think just having spoken to you, it seems like it's all about, you're in the middle of this circle that you're asking people to sing and inviting them to sing, whatever it is. It's almost like you gift everyone that presence, or you bring it out of everybody, and it really does feel totally divine, actually.
Thank you.
It's like when I've sung with you in that natural voice way, it is the most open I can feel. So it's I know that we've Susie kind of song priestess. It feels like well, it is that. I know. But it is like that for a lot. Some people really do have that gift, and you certainly do. And are you aware of that? Are you, how does that feel when you see people? Like, for example, when you taught Flame for the first time, I was in pieces. It kind of brought up, grief and joy and all of those things. It's like having psychotherapy. It's like going to church. It's like going for a workout. It's all of those things and being in connection in one little kind of, here's my song delivery. So, can you speak to that?
As you speak, it's like, oh God, how am I going to answer this? But as you speak, the thing that rises in me is it's because I believe in it. I believe in it with all of my heart and all my soul. And I don't just believe in it from here. I believe in it because I've experienced it as this healing force. I believe in it with everything, and I want you to experience it with everything I've got, and I will pour everything I've got until you can experience the healing power and the magic and the joy and the connection of singing together. It's like full commitment and full belief in the beauty of the voice. Yeah. And also not just like belief in it as a thing, belief in you, that you can, I know that you can access that sense of presence. And I know this works. I've seen it again and again and again and again through my whole life. The beauty of it. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. Well, I'm sure that anyone that's watching that has worked with you, even if on Zoom, can agree. But I think, keeper of time now, I'm going to have to try and wrap this up.
Okay, right, yeah.
But thank you so much for just going with the flow of this interview. And we didn't know where we would end up with this, but
we didn't even talk about like composing techniques, did we? Like, I mean,
yeah.
Anyway, but we did.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's much more to come from you, and there's places to find you and your work. But I'm just so glad that you're in on this, and you're so generous. You've been a massive inspiration to me. You've been a massive inspiration to so many choir leaders that I know, and you're still so young.
33.
How can you have achieved all that at 33? It's amazing, really. I mean, Susie, I love you dearly, and I know that you're much loved in the Natural Voice Network, in your own.
Hug you.
Oh, if only we could hug. And also in the online world, and you really are quite an inspiration, amazing singer, songwriter, composer,
Thank you so much.
leading the way. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's so nice. I feel like, I feel ecstatic and excited. And
it's not often that the focus is turned around on the composers. I think that's what we've been finding through these interview series is really giving a little bit of space for you to kind of think about what you do in a way that you wouldn't normally think about it. So if you have any other thoughts after this interview, then we can share some reflections as well to post on YouTube. But so we just say the links quickly now. So we've got SusieRo.com. SusieRo.com is an website to go to, and your YouTube page is in creation at the moment. You're going to be giving lots of lovely offerings on there. So
yeah, YouTube is, I'm putting a lot of energy into YouTube channel at the moment because there's so much I want to share. So whether it's just like a new song I just wrote, or whether it's some singing tips, or
and you've also got your website with your workshops that are happening. You can kind of follow Susie all around various different workshops. And have you got a donate page as well, somewhere to donate towards your like that?
I basically, I have a way to donate. Most of my things are sliding scale or donation. A lot of the like Zoom workshops are donations, so there's some little buttons on there, so it means that if you attend a workshop, you can donate through my website. Yeah,
wonderful. Well, I would urge anyone listening to this to go and listen to some of Susie's music if you haven't already before, and why not start with Creatures of the Deep?
Also, just to quickly say that there's somewhere you can sign up to my newsletter, and I've got, obviously, like the songbooks coming. I've also got my living instrument e-course, which is almost ready, and which I haven't even announced yet, but in 3 weeks today, live and locked down home album that I've just recorded in this little cabin that I live in.
Oh wow,
just voice and guitar. You guys are the first people I've told.
That's really exciting.
Yeah, so that's coming in 3 weeks. So if you want to hear about things when they're out, newsletter is nice and up. I don't bombard, but I just give the relevant info.
All good stuff.
Yeah. All good stuff. Oh, thank you so much, Kate, and thank you all for being present here with me.
It's hard to say goodbye. Yeah. But we must go and get on with our days. Yes. Yeah. And sending you lots of love, Susie, until we can hug and sing again.
Yes. Bye, love.
Bye, darling. Bye, everyone on Facebook.
Bye, everyone. Forgot you were there. No, I didn't.